The halls of Meadow Creek High buzzed with life every morning, students laughing, shouting, and hustling to their lockers. But amidst the chaos, Samantha Brooks moved like a ghost. She kept her head down, her dark hair falling over her shoulders, and wore the same plain medical mask every day. The mask wasn't an accessory for a cold or allergies, it was a shield she used to block the world from seeing what she considered her greatest flaw. Samantha had always been painfully shy, but her first year of high school magnified her insecurities. A dark, irregular birthmark stretched across her left cheek, and the skin around it was rough and uneven, drawing unwanted stares wherever she went. In middle school, cruel nicknames had haunted her: Patchwork, Freckle Face, and Spotlight, delivered with sneers or barely concealed laughter. Each insult chipped away at her confidence until she'd stopped looking in mirrors altogether. The mask became her armor. It covered the mark, concealing the part of her she hated most and shielding her from the ridicule she feared. But the mask also came with a price. It set her apart, marking her as an oddity in the eyes of her classmates. Instead of blending into the background as she'd hoped, Samantha found herself the subject of endless speculation and rumors. "She's probably hiding something gross under there," one girl had whispered in gym class. Another replied, "Maybe she doesn't even have a mouth, just, like, a big hole or something." The words echoed in Samantha's mind long after she'd heard them. Even when she wasn't the direct target of their whispers, she felt the weight of judgment in the sideways glances and muffled giggles as she passed. Every day, she walked the halls with her head bowed, her grip tightening on her books as if they could anchor her in place. Her teachers noticed her isolation but didn't intervene. Samantha completed her assignments diligently, excelling in most of her classes, but she rarely spoke unless directly addressed. Most assumed she was simply introverted. Only her art teacher, Ms. Bellamy, saw the vibrant, creative spirit hidden beneath the surface. Samantha's love for painting was her secret world, a refuge where she could express emotions she couldn't voice. Her bedroom walls were covered in her work, landscapes bursting with color, abstract pieces full of swirling emotions, and portraits that seemed to capture the very soul of their subjects. Painting was the one place where Samantha felt confident, where her mask was unnecessary. But her talent remained hidden from the world, just like her face. One morning, as Samantha placed her books in her locker, a group of popular girls clustered nearby, their voices carrying across the hall. Samantha knew better than to look their way, but their words still reached her. "Why does she even wear that thing?" one girl whispered, her tone dripping with derision. "It's so weird." "Maybe she's hiding something really gross," another replied. "Or maybe she just wants attention." The laughter that followed made Samantha's chest tighten. She slammed her locker shut and hurried away, her face burning beneath the mask. The comments weren't new, but they never stopped stinging. Deep down, she wondered if anyone would ever see her for who she really was, or if they'd always focus on what she hid. That afternoon, during art class, Ms. Bellamy made an announcement. "I have some exciting news," she said, smiling at the group of students seated at their easels. "The school is hosting an art competition. The theme is Unmasking Yourself. It's an opportunity to show who you are through your art." Samantha froze at the word unmasking. Her heart pounded as Ms. Bellamy continued explaining the details. Students could submit any medium, paintings, sketches, sculptures, but the artwork needed to reflect something personal, something meaningful. Ms. Bellamy's eyes scanned the room, landing briefly on Samantha. "I encourage all of you to participate. This is a chance to share your voice in a way only you can." Samantha felt like the words were directed at her, though she knew that couldn't be true. Still, the announcement stayed with her long after class ended. As she walked home that day, her thoughts churned. She loved painting, it was her safe haven. But sharing her work, especially something so personal, felt like stepping into a storm without her mask. Could she really do it? Could she take the risk of showing a piece of herself to people who might not understand? Or would she retreat into the comfort of invisibility, letting the opportunity slip away? At home, Samantha stared at a blank canvas in her room, her thoughts a whirlwind. The idea of participating in the competition both terrified and intrigued her. She imagined what she might paint, a self-portrait, perhaps, but not the kind that anyone expected. She wanted to create something that captured the person beneath the mask, the person she longed to be seen as. As she picked up her paintbrush, Samantha took a deep breath. Maybe it's time, she whispered to herself. Maybe it's time to stop hiding. Samantha Brooks wrestled with her decision to participate in the art competition over the next few days. The theme, unmasking yourself, felt almost painfully ironic given her daily reality. Yet, the more she thought about it, the more she realized creating something for the competition wasn't just about showcasing her talent, it was about reclaiming a piece of herself that she had long hidden away. Sitting in her room with a blank canvas propped on her easel, Samantha felt the weight of uncertainty pressing down on her. She gripped her paintbrush, hesitating as doubts swirled in her mind. What if her work wasn't good enough? What if the other students ridiculed it, just as they always seemed to ridicule her? Her gaze drifted to the paintings lining her bedroom walls, and a spark of determination flickered inside her. Those pieces, bold and unapologetic, were a testament to the emotions she had never voiced aloud. They were her stories, her truths. She realized that, even if she couldn't speak her feelings to others, her art had always done so for her. Taking a deep breath, Samantha dipped her brush into the palette of colors she had carefully mixed. The first stroke felt hesitant, but as the brush glided over the canvas, her movements grew more confident. Each new layer of paint seemed to release a part of herself, translating her innermost fears and hopes into vivid images. She poured her emotions into the work, her insecurities, her resilience, her longing to be seen. With every passing hour, she felt lighter, as though the act of creating this piece was peeling away layers of the mask she wore daily. The painting began to take shape as a deeply personal self-portrait, though not in the traditional sense. Samantha chose not to focus on her physical features, opting instead to convey her inner world through abstract shapes and colors. Swirls of deep blues and purples represented the fear and isolation she felt behind her mask, while bursts of gold and red symbolized the passion and creativity burning within her. At the center, she depicted a fragmented image of her face, including the birthmark she had spent years hiding. In her art, it wasn't a flaw but a vital piece of her identity, woven seamlessly into the broader tapestry of the painting. As the days passed, Samantha spent every free moment working on the piece. She became so absorbed in the process that time seemed to slip away. For the first time in years, she felt as though she was reclaiming something lost, a courage she hadn't known she still possessed. The painting wasn't just an assignment or a submission, it was a declaration. One afternoon, her art teacher, Ms. Bellamy, stopped Samantha after class to ask about her progress. "How's your project coming along?" she asked with her usual kind smile. Samantha hesitated, clutching her sketchbook tightly. "It's coming together," she said softly, not quite meeting Ms. Bellamy's eyes. "I'm glad to hear that," Ms. Bellamy replied. "You know, Samantha, your work has always been exceptional. I think this competition could be an opportunity for you to really shine." Samantha felt a lump in her throat. "What if people don't like it?" she whispered. Ms. Bellamy's expression softened. "Art isn't about pleasing everyone," she said. "It's about telling your truth. And from what I've seen, you have a powerful story to tell." That evening, Samantha returned to her room and stared at the nearly finished painting. She realized that participating in the competition wasn't about winning or gaining approval. It was about proving to herself that she had something to share, something worth expressing. Ms. Bellamy's words resonated deeply, emboldening Samantha to see the process through to the end. The night before the competition deadline, Samantha sat in silence, staring at the finished painting. It felt like a reflection of her soul, raw, vibrant, and unfiltered. She carefully wrapped the canvas in protective paper and set it by the door. As she climbed into bed, her heart raced with both excitement and fear. The thought of her work being displayed for the entire school to see was terrifying, but she reminded herself why she had taken this leap. "This isn't just for them," she whispered. "It's for me." The following Monday, Samantha arrived at school earlier than usual, her heart pounding as she carried her painting to the designated drop-off point in the art wing. The room buzzed with activity as students and teachers admired the submissions, their voices blending into a low hum of excitement. Samantha placed her piece on an empty easel, careful to avoid eye contact with her peers. As she turned to leave, a voice stopped her in her tracks. "Whoa, is that yours?" Samantha froze, her grip tightening on her backpack. She turned slowly to see Lucas, a boy from her history class, standing a few feet away, staring at her painting with wide eyes. Lucas wasn't one of the popular kids, but he was well-liked and known for his friendly demeanor. "It's incredible," Lucas said, stepping closer to examine the piece. "The colors, the shapes, it's so alive." Samantha felt her cheeks flush beneath her mask. "Thanks," she mumbled before quickly walking away, her pulse racing. It was the first time anyone at school had complimented her work, and though she tried to brush it off, the words stayed with her. That afternoon, the competition entries were displayed in the school gymnasium for students and faculty to view and vote on their favorites. Samantha lingered at the back of the crowd, her stomach in knots as she watched people examine her painting. To her surprise, the reactions were overwhelmingly positive. She overheard snippets of conversation, "This one's amazing, look at the emotion in it, who made this?" and felt a strange mixture of pride and vulnerability. For the first time, her work was being seen and celebrated, but she couldn't shake the question, would people see her the same way if they knew the person behind the painting? Samantha's painting stood among the competition entries, its vibrant swirls and fragmented self-portrait drawing a steady stream of attention. From her vantage point at the edge of the gymnasium, she watched as students and teachers stopped to admire her work. Whispers of admiration filled the air, and for the first time, she saw her peers looking at something she had created with awe rather than judgment. Yet the thought lingered in her mind, if they knew it was hers, would they feel the same? The voting period lasted all day, with students and faculty casting their ballots for their favorite pieces. By lunchtime, Samantha had overheard several classmates declaring her painting the frontrunner. It was surreal to hear her work spoken about in such glowing terms. "That one with the abstract face? It's incredible," one student said as he passed her in the hallway. Samantha kept her head down, pretending not to listen, but inside, her heart swelled with a mix of pride and trepidation. After the final bell rang, Samantha headed to the art room, where Ms. Bellamy and a few volunteers were tallying the votes. The winners would be announced the next morning, but Ms. Bellamy offered Samantha a knowing smile as she walked in. "You've made quite the impression, Samantha," she said softly. "Your work speaks volumes." Samantha nodded, unable to find the right words. Instead, she returned home and retreated to her room, her emotions a whirlwind. The praise she'd received was validating, yet it brought an unexpected weight. Her painting had become a reflection of her, and the thought of people connecting it to the girl behind the mask left her feeling exposed. The next morning, the entire school gathered in the auditorium for the announcement of the competition winners. Samantha sat near the back, her palms sweaty as Ms. Bellamy took the stage. "Before I announce the winners," Ms. Bellamy began, "I want to say how proud I am of every student who participated. The work you've done shows incredible talent and vulnerability." The third and second place winners were announced first, each greeted with enthusiastic applause. Finally, Ms. Bellamy smiled and said, "And the first place prize goes to a piece that has moved and inspired so many of us, Fragments of Me." The gym erupted into cheers as Samantha's painting was projected onto the screen. Ms. Bellamy gestured toward the crowd. "Would the artist please join me on stage?" A heavy silence followed, the kind that comes with unspoken questions. Samantha felt every pair of eyes turn toward the crowd, searching for the artist. Her heart raced, her feet frozen to the floor. She had never imagined standing in front of her peers like this, let alone without the mask that shielded her. Lucas, sitting a few rows ahead, turned to her with a smile. "It's yours, isn't it?" he whispered, his voice full of encouragement. Samantha swallowed hard and nodded. Slowly, she rose from her seat, clutching her mask tightly as she made her way to the stage. Each step felt heavier than the last, but she kept moving, driven by the applause and the knowledge that this moment mattered. When she reached the microphone, Ms. Bellamy handed her the award and whispered, "You've got this." Samantha's hands trembled as she took the microphone, her voice barely above a whisper. "Thank you," she began, her eyes scanning the sea of faces. "This painting, it's a part of me I've always been too afraid to share." A hush fell over the room as Samantha hesitated, her hand instinctively rising to her mask. "For a long time, I've hidden behind this," she said, her voice gaining strength. "Because I was afraid of what people would think if they saw the real me." Taking a deep breath, Samantha reached up and removed her mask, revealing the birthmark that covered her left cheek. Gasps rippled through the crowd, followed by an overwhelming silence. Samantha stood tall, her face unguarded, her voice steady. "I painted this piece to show that we're all made of fragments, our flaws, our strengths, our fears, and our hopes. And every piece is important." For a moment, the silence felt unbearable. Then, one by one, students began to clap. The applause grew louder, filling the auditorium with a wave of support that brought tears to Samantha's eyes. She saw Lucas stand, followed by others, until the entire audience was on their feet. As she stepped off the stage, students and teachers approached her with kind words and genuine admiration. For the first time, Samantha felt truly seen, not for the mask she wore, but for the person she was underneath. Her leap of faith had paid off in ways she had never imagined. As Samantha walked off the stage, the applause still ringing in her ears, she felt an overwhelming mix of emotions: relief, pride, vulnerability, and even a hint of fear. The moment she had dreaded for so long, revealing herself to her peers, had come and gone. Yet instead of the ridicule she had braced for, she was met with admiration and support. For the first time, Samantha felt the weight of her mask lifting, not just from her face but from her spirit. Students who had never spoken to her before approached her as she made her way down the hallway. "Your painting was amazing," said Emma, one of the popular girls who had once giggled near Samantha's locker. Her voice was genuine, and Samantha noticed a softness in her expression that hadn't been there before. "I didn't realize how talented you are," another classmate added, his tone earnest. "That piece really hit me. It's like you put your whole soul into it." Samantha responded with quiet thank yous, her voice shaky but sincere. While the words of encouragement warmed her, she couldn't ignore the nagging feeling that some of the praise came from guilt, perhaps an attempt to make up for past whispers and side glances. Still, she chose to focus on the kindness she was now receiving, even if part of her struggled to fully trust it. The most surprising moment came when Lucas approached her at lunch. For the first time since middle school, she wasn't eating alone. He slid into the seat across from her, his easy smile making her feel at ease despite the dozens of eyes that followed him. "You know," he said, taking a bite of his sandwich, "your painting wasn't just good, it was incredible. You should think about entering more competitions." Samantha hesitated, her hands fiddling with the edge of her lunch tray. "I don't know," she said softly. "This one was already a lot." Lucas leaned forward, his tone encouraging. "But you did it. And look how people reacted. They see you now, Sam. Not the mask, you." The sincerity in his voice caught her off guard. No one had ever spoken to her with such openness, and it made her feel, for the first time, like she belonged. In the days following the competition, Samantha noticed a gradual shift in how people treated her. Her peers greeted her in the hallways, teachers acknowledged her in class, and even those who had once avoided her seemed to make an effort to connect. But the change wasn't just external, it was internal, too. Samantha found herself walking with her head a little higher, her steps more confident. Yet, despite the newfound attention, not everyone embraced her transformation. In gym class, she overheard a sneering comment from a girl named Tasha, who had always been quick to judge. "Just because she painted something good doesn't mean she's not weird," Tasha whispered to her friend, loud enough for Samantha to hear. The words stung, but this time, Samantha didn't shrink away. Instead, she turned to Tasha and met her gaze. "You're right," she said calmly. "I am weird. And that's okay." The response left Tasha speechless, and Samantha walked away, her heart pounding with a mix of nerves and triumph. Encouraged by the success of her painting, Samantha began to explore other ways of expressing herself. She joined the art club, where she found a small but supportive group of students who shared her passion. With their encouragement, she started working on new pieces, each one reflecting a different aspect of her journey. Her art became a way to process her emotions and to connect with others in ways she never thought possible. One afternoon, Ms. Bellamy pulled Samantha aside after art club. "I'm proud of you, Samantha," she said, her voice filled with warmth. "You've shown so much courage, not just through your painting but in how you've handled everything since." Samantha smiled, her eyes glistening with gratitude. "Thank you," she said. "I don't think I could have done it without you pushing me." Ms. Bellamy chuckled. "I didn't push you, Samantha. You were ready, you just needed a little nudge to see it for yourself." The biggest moment of validation came when the school announced that Samantha's painting would be displayed in the main hallway for the remainder of the year. As the announcement was made over the loudspeaker, Samantha felt a wave of pride she hadn't experienced before. Her work wasn't just seen, it was celebrated. On the day the painting was unveiled, Samantha stood quietly in the hallway as students and teachers stopped to admire it. Lucas appeared at her side, giving her a playful nudge. "Looks like you're famous now," he teased. Samantha laughed softly, the sound light and unguarded. "I don't think I'm ready for fame," she said, though the smile on her face suggested she didn't entirely mind the attention. As the days turned into weeks, Samantha realized that her decision to remove her mask had been about more than the competition, it had been about reclaiming her identity. The mask had been a way to protect herself from the world, but it had also kept her from truly living. Now, with each passing day, she felt herself growing stronger, braver, and more connected to the people around her. Samantha's painting, with its swirling colors and fragmented self-portrait, became more than just an art piece, it became a symbol of resilience, self-acceptance, and the courage it takes to step into the light. And for Samantha, it marked the beginning of a new chapter, one where she no longer felt the need to hide. The weeks following the competition marked a significant turning point in Samantha's life. The painting that once embodied her deepest fears and emotions now stood proudly in the main hallway of Meadow Creek High, a testament to her courage and creativity. For the first time, Samantha felt truly visible, not because of her mask or the rumors surrounding her, but because of her talent and the story she had shared through her art. Samantha noticed how her peers began to approach her differently. Students she had never spoken to now stopped her in the hallways to compliment her work or ask questions about her artistic process. Teachers who had barely acknowledged her in class started calling on her more often, encouraging her to share her thoughts and ideas. Slowly, the walls Samantha had built around herself began to come down, brick by brick. One afternoon, Samantha found herself at the center of an unexpected conversation in art club. Lucas, who had become a consistent presence in her life, was brainstorming ideas for a mural the club wanted to paint in the school courtyard. "I think it should be something that represents growth," he said, glancing at Samantha for input. Samantha hesitated but then spoke up. "What about a tree?" she suggested, her voice gaining strength as she continued. "It could start with bare branches at the bottom and grow into something full and vibrant at the top. Kind of like how we grow as people." The group nodded in agreement, and Lucas grinned. "That's perfect," he said. "And you should design it." Samantha blinked in surprise. "Me?" she asked, her voice faltering. "Why not?" Lucas replied. "You've already shown everyone what you can do. This is just the next step." The confidence in his tone, echoed by the other members of the club, bolstered Samantha's resolve. For the first time, she felt not only included but also valued as a contributor to something bigger than herself. Despite her growing sense of belonging, Samantha still grappled with moments of doubt. One day, as she walked through the cafeteria, she overheard a snippet of conversation from a nearby table. "I mean, it's just one painting," said Tasha, the same girl who had dismissed Samantha after the competition. "It doesn't make her special." The comment stung, but Samantha didn't let it derail her. Instead, she reminded herself of the support she had received and the progress she had made. She wasn't doing this to prove anything to people like Tasha, she was doing it for herself. Her newfound confidence extended beyond the walls of the school. Encouraged by Ms. Bellamy, Samantha entered a regional art competition with a new piece titled Unveiled. The painting, another self-portrait, depicted her in vivid detail without the mask, her birthmark fully visible and surrounded by glowing light. It was a bold declaration of self-acceptance, and submitting it felt like shedding the final layer of fear she had clung to for so long. The day the competition results were announced, Samantha received an email that made her heart race. Her piece had been selected as a finalist and would be displayed at a local gallery. The news brought tears to her eyes, and for the first time, she allowed herself to feel proud of what she had accomplished. When the gallery event arrived, Samantha stood before her painting, surrounded by other talented artists and their families. She felt a pang of nerves as attendees approached her work, but the feedback was overwhelmingly positive. A woman in her 40s, with a kind smile, stopped to admire the piece. "This is yours?" she asked, turning to Samantha. Samantha nodded. "Yes," she said softly. "It's stunning," the woman said. "There's so much emotion in it. It feels like you're telling a story." Samantha's smile widened. "Thank you. That's exactly what I was hoping for." As the event continued, Samantha realized that her journey was about more than just art, it was about the connections she was forming and the strength she was discovering within herself. Each new opportunity felt like a step toward a brighter, more fulfilling future. Back at school, Samantha's role in the art club's mural project solidified her place in the community. Over several weeks, she worked alongside her peers to bring her design to life, transforming the once plain courtyard into a vibrant display of growth and unity. When the mural was unveiled during a school assembly, the applause and cheers felt like a culmination of everything Samantha had worked for. Ms. Bellamy, standing beside her, leaned over and said, "You've come a long way, Samantha." Samantha nodded, her eyes fixed on the mural. "I think I'm finally starting to believe in myself," she said, her voice steady. As the assembly ended, Lucas approached her with his trademark grin. "I told you you'd be great," he said. "So, what's next?" Samantha laughed softly, the sound light and unguarded. "I don't know," she admitted. "But I'm excited to find out." The mural became a symbol for the entire school, a reminder that growth was possible for everyone. For Samantha, it marked a turning point, a moment when she realized she didn't need to hide behind a mask anymore. She had found her voice, her courage, and her place in a world that once felt impossible to navigate. In the months that followed the unveiling of the school mural, Samantha's life continued to change in ways she never thought possible. The confidence she had gained from sharing her art and stepping out from behind her mask began to ripple through every aspect of her life. She was no longer the quiet, unseen girl in the corner, she was becoming someone who embraced her uniqueness and inspired others to do the same. Samantha's involvement in the art club deepened, and she found herself taking on leadership roles. The mural project had ignited a spark in her, and she began brainstorming ideas for new initiatives. With the support of Ms. Bellamy and her peers, she helped organize an art showcase at Meadow Creek High, inviting students from all grades to display their work. The event, called Expressions Unfiltered, celebrated diversity and creativity, and Samantha's bold self-portrait, Unveiled, was displayed at the entrance as a centerpiece. The showcase was a resounding success, drawing students, parents, and even members of the local community. Samantha stood near her painting, answering questions and engaging with attendees. One mother, whose daughter had struggled with self-esteem issues, approached Samantha with tears in her eyes. "Your story has given my daughter hope," she said. "She's always felt like she didn't fit in, but seeing what you've done has inspired her to be herself." Hearing those words, Samantha felt an overwhelming sense of purpose. She realized that her journey wasn't just about her own growth, it was about encouraging others to embrace their individuality and find their own voices. At the same time, Samantha began to notice changes in her relationships at school. Lucas had become one of her closest friends, and their bond continued to grow. He encouraged her to step further out of her comfort zone, whether it was joining a debate in class or participating in a group project with students she didn't know well. "You're more than capable, Sam," he often said. "You've already proven that." While many of her peers embraced her transformation, a few, like Tasha, remained skeptical or dismissive. One afternoon in the cafeteria, Tasha made a pointed comment about Samantha's newfound popularity. "So, what's it like being the school's art queen?" she sneered. "Do you think painting a couple of pictures makes you better than everyone else?" Samantha felt the familiar sting of Tasha's words but didn't let them shake her. Instead, she met Tasha's gaze calmly. "It's not about being better," she said. "It's about being true to myself. And I think everyone deserves to feel that way." Tasha didn't respond, but Samantha noticed a flicker of uncertainty in her expression. It wasn't a victory, but it was enough to remind Samantha that standing up for herself was worth it. As her confidence grew, Samantha also began to take more risks with her art. Inspired by her experiences, she started experimenting with mixed media, combining painting with photography and written poetry. Her work became more personal and raw, reflecting the complex emotions she had faced during her journey of self-acceptance. Each new piece felt like a chapter in her story, and with every stroke of the brush or line of poetry, she felt herself healing. Ms. Bellamy encouraged Samantha to submit her work to a prestigious youth art competition. The entry required an artist's statement, and Samantha spent hours crafting her words. In her statement, she wrote, "Art gave me the courage to face the parts of myself I used to hide. Through my work, I've learned that our flaws are not weaknesses, they're part of what makes us unique." When Samantha received news that her submission had been accepted, she was ecstatic. The competition was held in a neighboring city, and her family and friends accompanied her to the event. Walking through the gallery, seeing her work displayed alongside pieces from talented young artists across the region, Samantha felt an overwhelming sense of belonging. During the awards ceremony, Samantha didn't win first place, but she received an honorable mention for her piece Unveiled. The recognition was meaningful, but what mattered most to her was the journey that had brought her there. As she stood on stage accepting her award, she saw Lucas and Ms. Bellamy cheering from the audience, their pride evident. Back at school, Samantha's achievements continued to inspire her peers. The art club grew in size, with students from all backgrounds joining to express themselves and support one another. Samantha took on a mentorship role, helping younger students find their artistic voices. One freshman, shy and unsure, reminded Samantha of herself when she first started high school. "Just take it one step at a time," Samantha told her. "You don't have to have all the answers right away." Through these moments, Samantha realized how much she had grown, not just as an artist, but as a person. She had gone from hiding behind a mask to becoming a leader and a role model. Her journey wasn't perfect, and there were still moments of doubt, but she no longer let fear control her. One day, as Samantha walked past her painting in the school hallway, she overheard a group of students talking about it. "I heard she used to wear a mask every day," one said. "I can't believe she had the courage to take it off." Another replied, "She's amazing. I don't think I could have done what she did." Samantha smiled to herself, the comments filling her with quiet pride. The painting, once a deeply personal expression of her struggles, had become a symbol of resilience and self-acceptance for others. And that, she realized, was the greatest reward of all. As Samantha entered her final year at Meadow Creek High, she reflected on how far she had come. The mask she once clung to was now a distant memory, a relic of a time when fear and self-doubt controlled her life. Her transformation had touched not only her own world but also the lives of countless others around her. Samantha's story became more than just her own, it became a symbol of courage, self-acceptance, and the power of authenticity. Samantha's impact on the school and community continued to grow. Her role as a leader in the art club expanded, and she started organizing workshops for younger students, helping them explore their creativity and express themselves through art. The art club, which had once been a small, overlooked group, flourished into one of the school's most active and inclusive communities. Students from all walks of life joined, finding solace and strength in the supportive environment Samantha had helped foster. Her mural in the school courtyard became a beloved landmark, a daily reminder to students of the beauty in growth and transformation. On several occasions, Samantha caught glimpses of her peers taking pictures in front of it or tracing their fingers over the painted branches. "This mural makes me feel like I can do anything," one sophomore confided to her during a club meeting. Hearing such words reinforced Samantha's belief that her journey had a greater purpose. Outside of school, Samantha's art began to reach a wider audience. After earning an honorable mention at the regional art competition, she continued to submit her work to galleries and contests. Her unique style, blending bold visuals with deeply personal themes, caught the attention of local artists and curators. One evening, she received an email from a gallery owner who wanted to feature her work in an upcoming exhibit showcasing young talent. The gallery was hosting a show titled Voices Unseen, and the invitation felt like a full-circle moment for Samantha. At the gallery's opening night, Samantha stood beside her pieces, answering questions from attendees and sharing the stories behind her work. One of her paintings, titled Unmasked, featured a vivid, unfiltered depiction of herself, birthmark and all, surrounded by swirling colors that symbolized her journey of self-discovery. The response was overwhelmingly positive, with many attendees praising her bravery and vulnerability. As the evening went on, a man in his 40s approached her. "Your work is incredible," he said, his tone sincere. "It's not just beautiful, it's powerful. It tells a story." "Thank you," Samantha replied, her voice steady but humble. The man nodded, his expression thoughtful. "Have you ever considered speaking about your journey? I run a program for teenagers struggling with self-esteem, and I think your story could inspire a lot of them." The idea of sharing her story through words, not just art, was daunting, but Samantha felt a spark of curiosity. She agreed to consider it, knowing it could be an opportunity to help others in a new way. Back at school, Samantha continued to lead with quiet confidence. Her friendship with Lucas deepened, and their shared passion for creativity brought them even closer. Lucas often joked that she had become a local celebrity, but Samantha always brushed it off with a laugh. To her, the recognition wasn't about fame, it was about the connections she was building and the lives she was touching. One afternoon, as she worked on a new painting in the art room, Lucas walked in holding a flyer. "You're going to love this," he said, placing it on the table in front of her. The flyer announced a statewide art competition with the theme Breaking Barriers. "You have to enter," Lucas said, his enthusiasm contagious. "This is perfect for you." Samantha studied the flyer, her mind already racing with ideas. The theme resonated deeply with her, and she knew she wanted to create something that captured not only her personal journey but also the broader message of embracing individuality. Over the next few weeks, Samantha poured her energy into the competition piece. The painting, titled Breaking the Mold, depicted a figure shattering a mask made of glass, with fragments flying outward to reveal a radiant, multifaceted face. The vibrant colors and dynamic composition symbolized the freedom and strength that came from breaking free of societal expectations and self-imposed limits. When the competition results were announced, Samantha's painting won first place. The recognition was thrilling, but the most meaningful part of the experience was hearing how her work had inspired others. At the awards ceremony, a fellow artist approached her and said, "Your painting reminded me that it's okay to be myself. Thank you for that." As graduation approached, Samantha began to think about her future. She had been accepted into a prestigious art school, where she planned to study fine arts and explore new ways to use her talent to make a difference. Though the thought of leaving Meadow Creek High was bittersweet, she felt ready for the next chapter. At the school's senior awards night, Samantha was honored with the Spirit of Meadow Creek Award, recognizing her contributions to the school community. As she walked to the stage to accept the award, the audience erupted into applause. Lucas, sitting in the front row, gave her a thumbs up, his grin wide and proud. In her acceptance speech, Samantha spoke from the heart. "A few years ago, I didn't think I had a voice worth sharing," she said. "But through art, I found a way to tell my story. And along the way, I realized that we all have something valuable to share. Thank you for giving me the courage to step out from behind the mask." The applause was deafening as Samantha left the stage, her heart full. In that moment, she felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for the challenges she had faced, the people who had supported her, and the strength she had found within herself. Samantha's journey wasn't just about removing a mask, it was about discovering who she truly was and embracing every part of herself. As she looked toward the future, she knew her story was far from over. It was only the beginning of a life filled with creativity, connection, and the courage to keep unmasking herself, one layer at a time. With her graduation just a few weeks away, Samantha felt a mixture of excitement and nostalgia. Meadow Creek High had been the setting for some of her hardest struggles but also her greatest triumphs. The hallways that once felt like corridors of judgment were now filled with memories of laughter, connection, and transformation. Her painting in the main hallway stood as a constant reminder of how far she had come, and she often caught herself glancing at it during her walks to class. Samantha's final days at school were busy with preparations for the next chapter of her life. Her acceptance into the prestigious art school brought new challenges and opportunities, and she spent hours working on her portfolio. She wanted her submissions to reflect not just her technical skills but also the emotional depth that had become the signature of her work. Each piece told a story, of resilience, of self-discovery, and of the power of authenticity. Lucas, who had been her unwavering supporter throughout her journey, planned a small farewell party to celebrate Samantha's achievements. Held in the school's art room, the gathering brought together friends, teachers, and even some classmates who had once been distant but had grown to respect and admire her. As they laughed and shared stories, Samantha realized how much her world had expanded since the days when she hid behind her mask. During the party, Ms. Bellamy stood to give a short speech. "Samantha," she began, her voice warm and steady, "you've shown all of us what it means to be brave. Your journey has inspired not just your peers, but everyone who's had the privilege of knowing you. I know you're going to do amazing things, and I can't wait to see where your talent takes you." The room erupted into applause, and Samantha felt tears welling in her eyes. When it was her turn to speak, she took a deep breath and said, "Thank you all for believing in me, even when I didn't believe in myself. I've learned that it's okay to be vulnerable, to share your story, and to embrace the parts of yourself that you once thought were flaws. I wouldn't be here without the support of this community, and I'll carry everything I've learned with me wherever I go." The night ended with hugs, laughter, and promises to stay in touch. As Samantha walked home under the glow of the streetlights, she felt a profound sense of peace. She was no longer the shy, masked girl who avoided the world. She was Samantha Brooks, an artist, a friend, and a person who had learned to stand tall in her own truth. On the morning of graduation, Samantha donned her cap and gown, her heart full of anticipation. As she walked across the stage to receive her diploma, the applause felt like a celebration of her entire journey. Her family, Lucas, and Ms. Bellamy cheered loudly from the audience, their pride evident. Later that evening, Samantha returned to the school one last time to visit the courtyard mural. The painted tree, with its vibrant branches reaching upward, felt like a reflection of her own growth. She ran her fingers over the colorful bark, smiling as memories of her time at Meadow Creek flooded back. "I'll keep growing," she whispered to herself. "No matter where life takes me." As Samantha looked toward the future, she felt ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. Her story was no longer defined by fear or hiding but by resilience, creativity, and the courage to be seen. And while she knew there would still be challenges, she also knew she had the strength to face them without a mask. Samantha's journey was complete, but her story was just beginning. The days following graduation were a whirlwind of preparation as Samantha prepared to leave Meadow Creek and embark on the next phase of her life. The acceptance letter from the prestigious art school wasn't just a ticket to higher education, it was a gateway to a new world of possibilities, one where she could hone her craft and connect with others who shared her passion. Packing her belongings was bittersweet. As she carefully wrapped her canvases and supplies, she reflected on how far she had come. Each item she packed carried memories of her journey, the sketchbook that held her first hesitant attempts at self-expression, the brushes that had transformed her emotions into vivid imagery, and the photograph of the mural she had helped create, which now stood as a testament to her growth. On her final day in Meadow Creek, Lucas came by to help her load the last of her boxes into the car. "It's going to be weird without you here," he admitted, his usual light-hearted tone tinged with melancholy. Samantha smiled, her heart heavy but full of gratitude. "I'll miss you too," she said. "But you know this isn't goodbye. You're stuck with me, even if it's from a distance." Lucas grinned, pulling her into a quick hug. "You better keep me updated on all your crazy art school adventures. I expect photos of every masterpiece." As she drove away from the town that had once felt like a prison and now felt like a home, Samantha felt a mix of sadness and excitement. The road ahead was uncertain, but she was no longer afraid of uncertainty. Instead, she saw it as a blank canvas, waiting for her to fill it with color and meaning. Arriving at art school was a surreal experience. The campus buzzed with creativity, and Samantha was surrounded by students who were as passionate about their craft as she was. The first few days were overwhelming, but she quickly found her footing. Her professors recognized her talent and encouraged her to push her boundaries, experimenting with new techniques and mediums. Samantha's first major project was a self-portrait, and she approached it with the same honesty that had defined her earlier work. This time, however, the focus wasn't on her struggles but on her growth. The portrait depicted her standing confidently amidst a swirling storm of colors, her face unmasked and illuminated by a soft, radiant light. The birthmark that once caused her so much pain was now a central feature, integrated into the painting as a symbol of her journey. When the project was displayed in the campus gallery, it garnered praise from students and faculty alike. One professor, a seasoned artist with decades of experience, told her, "Your work doesn't just tell a story, it invites people to feel it. That's a rare gift." Samantha's days at art school were filled with challenges, growth, and moments of profound inspiration. She collaborated with fellow students on projects, formed friendships that felt like family, and discovered new depths to her creativity. Each piece she created carried a piece of her heart, and with every stroke of the brush, she felt herself becoming more confident in her voice as an artist. Years later, Samantha stood in a bustling gallery in a major city, her work displayed prominently as part of her first solo exhibition. The show was titled Unmasked, The Art of Embracing Identity, and it drew visitors from all walks of life. Each piece told a chapter of her story, from the pain of hiding to the joy of self-acceptance. As she walked through the gallery, greeting attendees and answering questions, Samantha spotted a familiar face in the crowd. Ms. Bellamy had traveled from Meadow Creek to see the exhibition, and her eyes shone with pride as she approached. "You've come so far, Samantha," she said, pulling her former student into a warm embrace. Samantha smiled, her voice steady and full of gratitude. "I couldn't have done it without you." Later that evening, as the gallery emptied and the city lights twinkled outside the windows, Samantha stood alone, reflecting on her journey. The girl who once hid behind a mask was now an artist whose work inspired others to embrace their own uniqueness. Her story had come full circle, but she knew it was far from over. With a deep breath, Samantha turned toward the future, ready to continue painting her life's canvas, one fearless stroke at a time. Years passed, and Samantha's journey continued to evolve in ways she never could have imagined. Her art career blossomed, with her work being featured in prestigious galleries around the world. Each piece she created carried the essence of her story, a message of resilience, self-acceptance, and the beauty of embracing one's identity. People who encountered her work often found themselves moved, inspired to reflect on their own lives and the masks they might still be wearing. One of Samantha's most impactful projects came when she partnered with a nonprofit organization dedicated to empowering young people struggling with self-esteem and identity issues. She led workshops in schools and community centers, using art as a tool for healing and self-expression. In one session, a teenage girl hesitantly approached Samantha with a drawing of her own. "I've never shown anyone this before," the girl admitted, her voice trembling. "But seeing your work made me feel like maybe I could." Samantha knelt beside her, studying the drawing, a raw, emotional piece that reminded her of her own early work. "This is beautiful," she said warmly. "You have a gift. Don't ever be afraid to share it." Moments like these reinforced Samantha's belief that her art was more than a personal passion, it was a way to connect with others and help them see the beauty in themselves. The workshops became a cornerstone of her career, and she found as much fulfillment in guiding others as she did in creating her own pieces. One day, Samantha received an invitation to return to Meadow Creek High as the keynote speaker for their annual Growth and Resilience Day. The honor was unexpected, but she accepted without hesitation, feeling a deep sense of gratitude for the school that had been both her greatest challenge and her launching pad. Standing on the stage in the familiar auditorium, Samantha looked out at the sea of faces, students, teachers, and community members, all eager to hear her story. She took a deep breath, her heart steady as she began to speak. "When I was a student here, I used to wear a mask every day," she said, her voice clear and confident. "I thought it was the only way to protect myself from judgment, from rejection. But over time, I realized that hiding only made me feel smaller. It wasn't until I took a risk, through art, through vulnerability, that I began to see myself for who I really was." Her words resonated deeply with the audience, and when she finished, the applause was thunderous. After the event, students lined up to meet her, sharing their own struggles and thanking her for her honesty. Among them was a girl wearing a mask similar to the one Samantha had once worn. "I don't know if I'm ready to take it off yet," the girl admitted, her voice barely audible. "But seeing you makes me think maybe one day I could." Samantha smiled, her eyes filled with understanding. "You'll know when you're ready," she said gently. "And when that time comes, you'll be amazed at how strong you are." As Samantha left Meadow Creek that day, she felt a sense of closure. The place that had once been a source of pain had become a symbol of her growth and resilience. She knew her journey would continue, with new challenges and opportunities waiting on the horizon, but she also knew she would face them with the courage and authenticity she had fought so hard to claim. Samantha's story was one of transformation, a testament to the power of embracing one's true self. Through her art, her connections, and her unwavering determination, she had turned her once hidden identity into a source of strength and inspiration for countless others. And as she looked toward the future, Samantha knew that her greatest masterpiece was still being created, one brushstroke, one connection, and one unmasked moment at a time.